Claire Willoughby had made many resolutions when she left Boston for the small town of Maple Hill, New Hampshire, 3 years earlier, but the one she kept best was this: life should be pieced together as carefully as a quilt. Nothing too frayed, nothing that didn't belong, and everything stitched down firmly. Most days, her quilt retreat centre, an 1830s farmhouse perched above a lake, felt as orderly as a log cabin block. 8 times a year, she hosted 12 guests who sewed, traded patterns, and ate too many blueberry scones. The October retreat, though, always had an extra thread of excitement. Maple Hill's foliage blazed against the white clapboards, and the wood stove kept the workroom warm even as frost dusted the windows at night. Monday morning the vans rolled up, and Claire walked out with a clipboard and a carafe of mulled cider. Regulars Nancy Pratt and Bea Ferguson waved from the front seat, while 3 newcomers stepped onto the gravel drive. Julia Chen, a corporate attorney on sabbatical, Ellen Marsh, a retired science teacher, and Lila Meadows, a quiet woman who carried her own sewing machine like a shield. "Welcome to Thimble Lake Retreat," Claire said, ushering them inside. She assigned rooms, pointed out the cookie jar, and opened the barn loft studio, where sunlight spilled across cutting tables. The hum of machines began almost at once, soothing as crickets. Claire loved this first hour, when strangers slipped into friendship on a tide of fabric snippets. Just before lunch, Lila found her near the ironing board. "Miss Willoughby, I made a thank you gift." She held out a folded wall quilt, no bigger than a pillowcase. "For hosting." "That's sweet of you." Claire unfolded it. The central panel was a single mountain in stormy blues. Around it marched a narrow border of cream rectangles, some long, some short, alternating with tiny red squares. Beautiful, yet oddly formal. "I hope you like it," Lila said, cheeks flushing. "I love it." Claire meant it, though something pricked at her memory. Long and short rectangles, evenly spaced. They looked like Morse code. She'd earned a ham radio badge in Scouts decades ago. Lila retreated to her machine. Claire took the quilt upstairs to her office, draped it over the desk, and fetched a pencil. ... She scribbled letters under each rectangle. After 5 minutes, she read the line aloud in a whisper. "Lila will disappear, Tuesday sunset. Stop, find me." Claire sat back hard, a prank. Yet Lila's eyes hadn't held a trace of mischief. There were no threatening words, only a warning. And Claire believed warnings. She had, after all, fled Boston, when warnings about burnout became chest pains. Breathe, she told herself. Disappear could mean many things. Maybe Lila planned to slip away quietly and didn't want drama. But why tell Claire in code? Lunch was tomato bisque and cheddar biscuits. Claire watched Lila spoon soup without appetite, her shoulders hunched like a sparrow under a cat's gaze. No one else noticed. Quilters spoke of bargain fabrics and maple syrup tours, while the wood stove clinked. After dishes, Claire cornered Bea, who had once been Maple Hill's postmaster, and whose curiosity rivaled Miss Marple's. "Does Lila seem anxious to you?" Bea peered over rimless glasses. "Like a rabbit in hawk country." "Why?" Claire explained in low tones, showing only her transcription, not the quilt. "Morse code? Clever girl?" Bea's brow furrowed. If she's planning to vanish, she may be running from someone. Or to someone. Either way, sunset tomorrow is less than 30 hours. Bea straightened. "We need facts." Their first fact arrived unbidden. While others cut fabric, Lila stepped onto the porch with her phone. Claire, claiming she needed firewood, passed by and heard a terse fragment. "I won't. I can't. Tomorrow, and that's final." then silence. Lila re-entered, face chalk white, and began chain-piecing half-square triangles, as if the machine were her only lifeline. That evening, Claire brewed chamomile and invited Lila to the sunroom. Candlelight softened the young woman's tense expression. "Are you enjoying the retreat?" Claire began. "It's lovely." Her fingers toyed with the mug handle. "I wanted to thank you again for the mountain quilt. The border is fascinating." Lila's eyes flicked up, startled, then away. "Just a design." "I used to send Morse over shortwave," Claire said gently. "I couldn't help but translate." The mug froze midway to Lila's lips. "I'm not here to judge, only to help," Claire continued. "Will you disappear tomorrow?" Tears pooled, then Lila shook her head. "Not disappear. Be taken." Claire's stomach lurched. "By whom?" I'm not sure." She set the mug down, hands trembling. 3 months ago, my sister died in a boating accident on Lake Champlain. It was ruled accidental, but I found emails she sent the night before. Someone threatened her, told her to meet them and bring the files. She worked for Thurton Pharmaceuticals. Lila swallowed. "I took her laptop. There are encrypted documents, proof the company falsified drug trials. When I tried to get a whistleblower lawyer, strange things happened. My apartment broken into, my car tires slashed. Last week, someone left a note. 'We know where you quilt. Tuesday sunset.' Good Lord. I figured they meant the retreat. I didn't want to cancel. I needed someplace quiet to plan. Then I thought maybe if I warned someone just in case." She gave a shaky laugh. "But I couldn't blurt it out. Morse felt safer." Claire reached across the small table. "You are safe here. Maple Hills Sheriff is my cousin Reed Carver. May I call him?" Lila hesitated, fear and relief battling. Finally, "Yes, but discreetly." Claire led her to the office, locked the door, and phoned Reed. He listened, then said, "I'll swing by tomorrow afternoon in plain clothes. Meanwhile, keep eyes open." They moved Lila from the second-floor dorm to a back bedroom with only one window, and Bea slept in the next bed like a stout guardian angel. Claire tried to sleep herself, but every creak of the old house sounded like footfalls. Tuesday dawned bright and brittle. The group packed picnic baskets for a drive to Sugarloaf Overlook. Claire announced she had bookkeeping to finish. No one minded. Bea also begged off, claiming a sore knee. That left Lila with 2 protectors and an empty retreat house. At 10 o'clock, a green pickup rolled slowly past the front gate, paused, and continued. Reed arrived 15 minutes later, a flannel-clad fisherman on vacation. Claire poured coffee while Bea monitored windows. Reed listened to Lila's story firsthand. "We can provide protective custody, but we'd need formal charges," he said. "Corporate threats are slippery." "I just need to survive until I hand over the files," Lila said. "A journalist in Concord expects me Thursday morning." Reed tapped fingers on his mug. "Sunsets at 6:05. Let's assume they'll act near then. How many ways in?" "Front door, kitchen door, studio sliding doors, basement hatch," Claire recited. "Plus windows?" "We'll lock down, but I need probable cause to detain trespassers. Let's hope they're careless." At noon, while Reed radioed dispatch from his truck, Claire studied the mountain quilt draped on a chair. She noticed something she'd missed. Faint quilting lines inside the blue mountain formed another Morse chain. She fetched her pencil. Cabin Raven Rock, 5 p.m. She grabbed Reed before he drove away. Raven Rock lay off the Appalachian Trail 2 miles behind the retreat, more a big boulder than a true peak. A hunter's cabin sat nearby, unused except during deer season. If the threat said, "We know where you quilt," They might lure Lila out, she said. But why broadcast the place in her own quilt? Maybe the sender assumed she'd keep the gift, or the quilt got switched. Claire's mind flipped fabric pieces. The boulder pattern we're making this week, Raven Rock Star, Lila designed it. Everyone's using her handout. What if the message was meant for the culprit, not Lila? Go on. Suppose someone hid instructions inside the border so an accomplice would know the meet-up spot. If that quilt landed in the wrong hands, all bets are off. Reed leaned against the truck, which means one of our other guests could be involved. Bea, standing behind them, gasped. Heavens. Julia Chen kept asking Lila about her late sister, said she once invested in Thurton Pharmaceuticals, and Ellen Marsh taught chemistry. She grilled Lila on drug names. Reed straightened. I'll call for backup to cover the roads. Meanwhile, nobody leaves the retreat. Claire felt her tidy patchwork life ripping at the seams. Her guests were friends, not suspects. Still, the rule of quilts applied. Evaluate every piece before stitching it in place. At 3:30, the vans returned. Julia gushed about sugar maples, Nancy about an antique shop, Ellen about spotting a hawk. Lila offered a tight smile and hurried upstairs. Claire announced an impromptu scrap exchange in the studio, an excuse to keep everyone together. Bolts and fat quarters flew as women bartered. Claire circulated, feigning interest while evaluating. Julia's tote bag bulged oddly. Ellen's hiking boots were muddy, yet Raven Rock's trailhead was dry today. At 4:30, Reed knocked on the side door. Claire brought him into the pantry. Backup's half an hour out, he said. Cell reception at Raven Rock is poor. I'm going to check the cabin. I'm coming, Claire said before fear could argue. I know the path, and you might need a witness. She scribbled a note for Bea. Keep everyone in the studio till we return, and slipped on her barn coat. They cut through the orchard. Golden leaves whispered overhead. The air smelled of pine and distant wood smoke. Claire's pulse thudded like a treadle machine. Half a mile in, Reed pointed to boot prints veering off the main trail. Fresh, size 9, maybe a woman's. They followed. 5 minutes later the cabin appeared, a sagging rectangle of weather-grey boards. Its door hung ajar. Reed drew his service weapon and signalled Claire to stay behind him. Inside, dust motes floated in slanted light. A pot-bellied stove, a cot, and shelves of mouse-chewed blankets. And on the cot, Julia Chen, arms bound, gagged, eyes wide above duct tape. Reed holstered and hurried to free her. Who did this? She coughed. Tall man, ski mask. He thought I was Lila. Where is he now? Went back down trail. Maybe realized mistake. Her voice shook but held fury. I followed Lila earlier, trying to talk about her sister's case. I'm an attorney, remember? Someone grabbed me from behind. Claire's breath hitched. If the man knew he'd taken the wrong quarry, he'd head for the retreat. And sunset was minutes away. Reed radioed dispatch, cuffed Julia's wrists lightly with his spare handcuffs, for safety until backup confirmed her story, then told Claire, stay with her. He dashed out. Julia sagged against the wall, still trembling. Claire peered through the doorframe. The sky glowed pumpkin orange. She spotted movement far below, someone in a dark jacket trotting toward the farmhouse orchard. Reed pounded after him, but 100 yards back. Claire's mind unspooled faster than any bobbin. The retreat sat unguarded, but for Bea and 12 quilters who thought they were safe. The assailant would cut across the orchard and reach the kitchen porch first. She couldn't help Reed by hiding in a cabin. She set a hand on Julia's shoulder. I'll bring help. Then she ran. The shortcut she chose plunged through birch stands and over a stone wall. Brambles clawed her jeans. She forced lungs to stay steady, focusing on rhythm like a running stitch. As she cleared the wall, she glimpsed the retreat, lamplight glowing, silhouettes at windows. And on the porch, Lila stepped outside to shake crumbs off a tray. At the same moment, a dark figure emerged from the orchard, 6 yards away from Lila, unseen by her. He raised an arm. Something metallic glinted. Claire screamed, "Lila, down!" The tray clattered as Lila ducked. The man lunged. Claire, closer than Reed now, grabbed the heaviest object within reach. A pumpkin set beside the door. She hurled it. Years of softball paid off. The pumpkin exploded against the man's shoulder. He staggered, cursing. Lila scrambled inside, slamming the door. Claire seized a broom from the porch, brandishing it like a lance. "Back off!" He advanced, fury twisted behind ski mask eye holes. Before he could strike, Reed barreled up the steps and tackled him. They crashed through fallen leaves. In seconds, Reed had the man face down and cuffed. Backup sirens wailed on the road below. Bee flung open the door. "Merciful heavens! Claire, your coat!" Claire looked down. Pumpkin pulp smeared her sleeves like molten gold. She laughed shakily. Adds seasonal flair. Sheriff's deputies hustled the assailant, a Thurton security contractor it turned out, into a cruiser. Julia, escorted by another deputy, arrived at the gate, indignant but unharmed. Ellen and Nancy made tea for everyone, because in Maple Hill crises were measured in teacups. Inside, Reed took statements. The assailant admitted he'd been sent to retrieve a flash drive Lila carried. He'd bargained on fear, not 5'2" retreat leaders wielding pumpkins. "Well," Reed said afterward, "I'll file charges for assault, kidnapping, and trespass. State investigators can take the corporate end." Lila produced the flash drive and handed it to him. "For the Attorney General, and a journalist in Concord will get copies tomorrow." She turned to Claire. "You saved my life. Twice." "I merely followed the stitches." Claire smiled, though exhaustion tugged at her eyelids. "Your quilt asked for help. We answered." Later that night, after deputies left and the house settled, Claire sat in the empty studio. The mountain quilt lay across her lap. She ran fingers over the cream rectangles, appreciating anew the courage hidden in simple cotton. Then she basted a fresh border around it, bright autumn batiks, and stitched one more Morse sentence in tiny running stitches. "Safe at last, thank God." The next morning, sunlight spilled across the design walls. Julia, exonerated, drafted legal filings at the breakfast table. Ellen organized fabric donations for whistleblower funds. Nancy baked orange cranberry muffins. And Lila? She stood by the lake, face lifted to the pale sky, as if breathing for the first time since her sister died. The retreat was due to resume its normal schedule, binding demos, hot cider, laughter. But Claire felt it had already completed a more important project, piecing together danger, courage, and community into a single finished quilt. She stepped onto the porch, coffee steaming in her mug. Somewhere a woodpecker tapped, like a message in code she no longer needed to decipher. In Maple Hill, she thought, secrets might lurk between stitches, but friendship would always sew the final seam.